Now, let's check the verbs in English. Remember, the verbs are words that describe specific actions. These are the actions in the sentence. Sometimes the verbs can be helping verbs, like modal verbs, or they can be verbs of emotions or different qualities. So they're not really doing an action in the sentence, if that makes sense. Okay, very good. Yes, some verbs are not action verbs. They refer to state or feeling. So when you're happy, excited, to love, to be, to see, etc. These are not very actionable words. Awesome. Now, when we imagine this part of speech, the verbs, this is the most extensive part of the language. It's very extensive because the verbs are normally what we learn at school, how to conjugate the verbs in the present, in the past, in the future, in the perfect tenses, all of these things, okay? So I'm going to try to resume the topic of the verbs as much as possible, okay? And as you can see in this chart, when we think of the verb, we think of the infinitive. So we know that the verb to walk is, okay, we know the action, walking, to walk. Whenever we're using it in the simple present tense, all we do is we use the same verb for all the subjects. So it's I walk, you walk. However, he, she, it walks. We walk, they walk. So if you notice in this case, the verb doesn't change a lot. The only thing that we're doing here is we're adding S in the third person. That is it, he, or she. For the rest of the subjects, the verb is the same. It does not change. For example, the simple past tense. All we have to do is to add ed to the end of the verb. Except for the verbs that are irregular, I always provide a list of irregular verbs for my students. But if the verb is regular, all you do is add ed at the end of the verb. So this is the present tense and this is the past tense. For the past participle, the past participle is normally with ed. If the verbs are irregular, then I normally provide a list, no, of those irregular verbs, but it's normally ed for the normal verbs. The present participle is normally with ing. Okay, let's check another verb. To approve, the same. It's the same verb. I approve, you approve, we approve, they approve, except for he, she, it approves. The simple past, approved. We just add D. Past participle, approved. Present participle, approving. And the list goes on. If you notice, the structure is the same. So we have infinitive, we have the present, we have the past, we have the past participle, and the present participle of the verb. Those are the structures when we talk about the verb structures. Okay, these are verb structures, not so much tenses in English. Okay, and remember the verbs can be their action. Okay, action verbs, for example, go, hit, charge, speak, run. The non-action verbs are those that describe states of, for example, your appearance, to seem, to appear. Emotions like love, like, prefer, dislike. These are not action verbs. Mental states like know, appreciate, believe, doubt. Perceptions, hear, recognize. Possession like own, want, need, desire. These are not considered to be action verbs. Very good. Another way of identifying the verbs in English, okay, is by seeing the endings. These suffixes at the end of the word, you know that it's a verb. Or let's say you have the noun of these words and you want to create the verb structure, then you add these suffixes. For example, let's say you know the word frustration. And when you're talking, you want to use the verb form of frustration. You can say frustrate. That's the verb, okay? So the eight is agitate, frustrate, eliminate, congregate. we have en, toughen, harden, straighten, enlighten, shorten, or iffy, or if I. Satisfy, identify, specify. Eyes, categorize, materialize, energize. Okay, these are the endings of verbs. Now, if we were to focus on the verb structure, like the conjugations, now we're getting into more details in this part. For example, we have the infinitive structure that we just saw. We have the present simple. We have the simple past. We have the past participle. And we also have the present participle. That's the structure. These are the basic structures in English. So let's say we have the verb put. You can say put or puts in the present tense. Remember, I put, you put, we put, they put. He, she, it puts. We add an S or we can add ES in English. In the simple past tense, we only put because it's irregular. It doesn't change. For the past participle, it's also put. And the present participle, putting, because we use ing. And with these structures that you see here, we form all the other tenses in English. So once you learn these basic structures, then we can create different tenses in English. For example, here we have present and the simple past. Let's say we wanted to create the present perfect. We have to use the present form of the verb to have plus the past participle. Okay, she has put. Okay, now let's say I want to create the continuous tense in English. I need the verb to be. I'm going to conjugate the verb to be, that be in the present or in the past, and then I'm going to use this structure with ing. I am putting. She is putting. So as you see, whatever tense that comes after this, we need a combination of these right here. Perfect. For the phrasal verbs, okay? Phrasal verbs are like a combination of verb plus preposition in English. We're seeing the verbs now. Later on in this course, we're going to see the prepositions. But just to give you an idea, I don't want you guys to stress about this right now. I just want you to visualize that it exists, okay? And that's it. For example, we have the verb to break something, okay? Break plus up gives us a new idea. My boyfriend and I broke up last week. This is in the past. So break up means to separate, to end a romantic relationship, to break up. Perfect. And those are phrasal verbs in English. And the tenses, they continue. Now let's see a combination of what the basic structure. So we have the simple tense, we have the simple past tense, we have the present continuous, the past continuous, we have the simple future, the future continuous, we have the perfect, and it keeps going like that. So we build on the basic structure that we have already seen at the beginning. This part, I'm not going to go into detail because I have a grammar course that is focused on explaining all of these in details, okay? So I won't be getting into full details of this one, but in this chart, we see how we combine different parts, okay, of the verb, the basic structure that we saw before right here. We put these together to create other tenses in English, okay? With ing, with the past participle, with the verb to be plus ing, okay? Will, the same base form plus ing, and so forth, okay? Then we have some verbs that are considered to be modal verbs or modals, and they can express like possibility, intention, obligation, or necessity. Can, could, will, would, shall, should, ought to, need, okay? These are modal verbs and we use them alongside other verbs in a sentence. Perfect. We also have what are called active or passive forms, okay? So when you're talking, you can use the active voice. or you can use the passive voice. What's the main difference in this case? The main difference is that in the active voice, we're focusing on who is doing the action. Who is doing the action? In the passive voice, we're focusing on who is receiving the action, and that's the biggest difference. If you notice, both the active and the passive voice can be in all the tenses that we have in English. Okay, so active voice, who is doing the action, active. Okay, passive is who is receiving the action in the sentence. Very good. I have a full grammar course on this particular topic as well, so I'm not going to get into details. Remember, this first part of the course is just to give you a general idea of how the parts of speech work in English. So this is not in depth, okay, into the grammar part of English. That's a separate course, okay? Perfect. So I hope this was clear. I hope it was helpful. And we will continue with the next part of the course in a moment.